This is Glow in the Dark Radio. The science fiction podcast with original independent science fiction written and performed by Mike Luoma, with music by Kevin MacLeod. The Vatican Assassin Trilogy and The Adventures of Alibi Jones by Mike Luoma are available in ebook, trade paperback, and audiobook wherever you find your books online. Get links and details at glowinthedarkradio.com. This is the Science Fiction Podcast, Glow in the Dark Radio. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma, and I've got Chapter 21 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her on the way on this episode. So I will set that up for you. That's what I do usually every week. I set up the chapter with kind of a little story so far, so you're up to date on where we're at before we get into it. On our last episode, we got a glimpse into the world of evil people, so to speak. The crime boss and planetary overlord Rene Laveillur, and through him, learned a little more about what the ancient enemy Azimet has been up to as well. Alibi Jones is on Laveillur's planet Kismet, where he's been told he's a dead man. He's not supposed to be there. But Alibi is in disguise with the Dakhur delegation, as Alibi tries to free his former friend, the Dakhur Kit, being held by Laveillur for execution. Alibi is also hoping to free his girlfriend, or former girlfriend, Katie Ramsey, too, despite learning of some complications Laveillur has put in place and in her bloodstream. We'll rejoin Alibi and the Dakhur on Kismet as we get into Chapter 21 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her on Glow in the Dark Radio. Well, a big thank you to patrons who help keep this whole thing happening. I love you. You are the support that this podcast needs, and you keep coming through for me, and I appreciate that. If you want to become a patron and help support the podcast and keep things going, please head over to Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio. And you can pledge $2, $5, or $10 a month and support the podcast, support Glow in the Dark Radio, as people do. And once again, thank you. If you're one of those people, thank you to patrons who help support and keep Glow in the Dark Radio going. In book news, I've got bad book news. As I've said the last couple of weeks, it looks like paperback prices are going to go up. I haven't seen it yet. No paperback price increases I've seen yet, but that means they're probably coming August 1st. I just checked Amazon and Barnes & Noble before I started recording, and the paperbacks are still at current pricing. So that's good to see, for now at least. But in case you missed that news, we're seeing a price increase on paperbacks coming August 1st, pretty much across the board. Sounds like it's going to be on everything, on all paperbacks. Now, some of this appears tariff-related. Given what I'm seeing as far as worldwide price increases, the price changes going country to country. With my own books, it looks like tariffs are at work. I don't know that for sure. And it may be that the printers and distributors are just using this opportunity to adjust prices up anyway because they've needed to or wanted to. Because it looks like there was a price increase coming, but the shape and scope kind of, like I say, seem related to the tariffs. But whatever the cause, prices will be going up, and probably August 1st, if not sooner. It's happening soon. And that is the unfortunate book news that I have to share this week. We will get into Chapter 21 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her coming up next on Glow in the Dark Radio.
Hi, I'm JC. My co-host Cindy and I host the Fix It Home Improvement Podcast. We cover projects that every homeowner should know and top-rated products for home and garden. And for fans of Mike, we keep you posted on new smart home systems and products like robot vacuums and robot lawnmowers that seemed like science fiction not too long ago. You can check it out on your favorite podcast app. It's Fixit, Fixit, Home Improvement.
Now here's Chapter 21 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her on Glow-in-the-Dark Radio.
I just had the craziest dream, Alibi tells Dakhur and Kat as they meet after breakfast in the main room of their diplomatic suite on Kismet. I dreamed that Azumet had gotten the top of my skull off, and he was poking around inside my brain. It was like I could actually feel him poking inside, Alibi tells the two Catmen. Kit saved you from him, correct? Dakhur asks. Alibi is saddened at the thought of that happier occasion. Well, the rescue was happier, not the nearly losing the top of my skull part. Yeah, Alibi explains. That's why it would be nice to return the favor and rescue him. Dakhur looks worried for Dakhur. Dakhur, what's wrong? Alibi asks. They have placed new restrictions on us, on how many may visit Kit at any one time. I fear that Laveillur may be on to us, Dakhur informs Alibi. How many can go at a time? Alibi asks. Myself and 2 more. Okay, so let's go. Alibi is eager to scope out the area again. No problem. Not today, Alibi, Dakhur tells him. I am worried about Laveillur. He does hold my son's life in his hands. If he suspected anything, we would have already gotten a visit from Peterson, Alibi counters. Then perhaps I am being overcautious. I would rather err on the side of caution, Dakhur explains. You can go back down there tomorrow. But I have Brady Thomas looking into Katie's situation today. I was planning to cover the Kit side of things myself. Couldn't you take me down there later? Make a late afternoon visit if everything works out okay this morning? Dakhur looks thoughtful. I will consider your request. It is, after all, why you are here. We just need to be careful, Alibi. Laveillur is a dangerous man. There is no sign of Peterson. Dakhur's morning visit with Kit goes without incident. Dakhur is then gone for a few hours as he meets with Laveillur for a long lunch. Dakhur fills Alibi in on the discussions back in the suite afterward. Rene Laveillur is disgusting and greedy. Kakrisha! Dakhur growls after the doors of the suite seal behind him. What was that last word, Dakhur? Alibi asks, curious with what the old Dakhur had just let loose. The Kakrishker is an animal native to her, Alibi Jones, Kat explains, entering the suite's main room. I could not help but overhear. It is similar to your bovines. A pig? Alibi nods. I get it. Makes sense. Dakhur is still fuming. Even when Dakhur was furious with Alibi did not see him this angry, this worked up. He insists our trade agreements need to be twice as generous, in his favor, of course, than what we had discussed previously. He insists the involvement of the Greater Ta has diminished the value of our goods and services. Insufferable, greedy, kakrishker. Alibi watches Dakhur fume. He decides to still try the elder Dakhur. So, can we go to see Kit this afternoon? Did Laveillur seem suspicious? He seemed gluttonous, Dakhur parries. Pig, that was your word? Yes. Such a small word for such a big man. Pig-like, then, yes. But suspicious? Only of where his next bite of food was coming from. Alibi pushes. Then you'll take me to see Kit this afternoon? Yes. Dakhur agrees quickly. Absolutely. I want to get off this pig planet. You are not a convincing-looking Dakhur woman, Kit says to Alibi by way of greeting, and you still smell like sweaty, stinky meat. Nice to see you too, Kit, Alibi replies. Do not thank me, Kit says. I have no choice but to see you, as you can see. He gestures at the cell around him. I cannot go anywhere to get away from you, and you are not honorable enough to respect my requests. Alibi Don't! Alibi cuts the Catman off before he can finish saying his name. Yes, good point, Kit says. A whispered human name is so much more suspicious than you yelling in a human male's voice while dressed as a supposed Dakhur female. You both need to remember where we are. Rakhar rebukes the both of them in a hissed whisper. And all of the reasons why we are here. Alibi and Kit are silenced by Rakhar's rebuke. Kit stares off into space, refusing to look at or make eye contact with Alibi. Alibi looks at Kit, and then glances at Rakhar. Rakhar nods to Alibi. He sighs a little, and then tries again with Kit. Do they ever let you get any fresh air? Any exercise? Alibi questions Kit. There is usually a time each day where some guards come and fetch me for exercise, but it seems to happen at different times each day, Kit tells him. He still doesn't look at him. When do you get your meals? Alibi asks. Are those times consistent? Yes, 2 meals. A large brunch at about 10 o'clock, and a large dinner at about 5 o'clock. Alibi thinks for a moment. The exercise sessions, are they usually later or earlier in the day? They happen at both times, and others, Kit answers, but most of the time in the afternoon or evening. What are you thinking? Rakhar asks in a whisper as he leans in towards Alibi. I'm thinking this detention area is incredibly secure. Cameras, guards. We can't get him out of here. So we'll have to do it when they're moving him. Probably when they take him for exercise. Alibi turns back to his friend in the cell. Kit, where do they usually take you? There is a fenced-in yard. Looks to be part of an old construction site, next to the Circle Bay Casino, but out of sight of the building itself, Kit says. Down near the waterfront, on the opposite side of the city from the spaceport. Most times I have been taken down there. They let me walk around the small yard for a while, Kit tells them. Okay, Alibi says, thinking. I think we're going to have to do this all at once. All what? Kit asks. You, Katie, all of us gone. Maybe the delegation first. Alibi is thinking on his feet. This is not going to be easy, but we've got to try to get both Kit and Katie out at the same time, or risk getting caught waiting. Maybe Brady Thomas knows where this exercise yard is. All of us gone? What are you saying? Is he making sense, Kit? I cannot follow him, Rakhar says, perplexed. Alibi holds up his fur-covered hand as he tries to think things through. I believe he is formulating a plan and trying to speak at the same time. This does not usually work out well for him, Kit observes. You just made a funny, Alibi points out to Kit. Humor, that's an improvement. You may not want me out from inside of this cell, Kit warns him. I have not renounced my intent to kill you. You see, right back to normal, Alibi jokes. Rakhar looks from Alibi to Kit and back and forth again, confused. I do not understand, Rakhar says. Kit, Alibi is not to blame for the death of Trishgershnerlergerlardl. You must not invoke the blood oath against him and call for his death. This is not reasonable. Have you not noticed, Father, Kit says, the universe is not a reasonable place. Oh, I notice that with every passing breath, my younger son, Rakhar responds more formally, putting Kit in his place. I apologize for my irreverence, Father, Kit says softly. You are forgiven, Rakhar assures him. I will chalk it up to the time you have spent being caged. No Dakhur should have to live in a cage. Thank you, Father. Rakhar turns and says to Alibi, "We should go now. Do you have all you need?" Alibi looks around the detention area and then nods to Rakhar. "I do. I know I need to try this rescue somewhere else." "I will visit again tomorrow, my son," Rakhar says in a loud voice, for the benefit of any trying to listen in. He and Alibi leave the detention area and return to the Dakhur diplomatic suite. One of the Dakhur security guards has a report for Rakhar after they are back in the suite. 5 visual, 14 audio, 7 on the comm system. The guard ticks off the list as Rakhar reads it. "What's that?" Alibi asks. "A list of all the surveillance items discovered planted throughout our diplomatic suite here on Kismet," Rakhar explains in a calm tone. "What?" Alibi is astounded. "All of those were bugs planted here?" He can't believe it. "It is the usual practice," Rakhar tells him, still calm. "Will you protest?" "Of course," Rakhar says. "We will file an official protest, as we always do." "Wait," Alibi says, shaking his head. "This happens all the time?" "Yes, every visit. They hide them, we find them, we protest, they apologize. It is a little diplomatic dance we do. With some groups, it is expected. It would almost be an insult to us if Laveillur did not try to bug our suite." Rakhar tries to explain. Alibi is still shaking his head. Then a wonderful, beautiful, itchy-less thought occurs to him. "So, you've swept the suite for bugs. Does this mean I can get out of the costume for a little while?" Alibi almost begs. "Yes, you should be safe, for the time being," Rakhar says. Before he reaches safe, Alibi is out of the room, off to his stateroom to peel off the disguise and hit the refresher for a late afternoon shower. Brady Thomas is waiting to see Alibi once he's again dressed in human clothes. Alibi meets with the man in his stateroom in the suite, trying to stay far from the prying eyes of Laveillur's people. Alibi fills Thomas in on Kit's impenetrable cell and his exercise breaks. Thomas runs down what he's discovered about Katie. "I know there aren't many guards with her crew when she's out there on disposal duty," Thomas says, "but I don't think that's because they don't care. I think it's because they know it's hard to get around out there in the ruins and the jungle. The place itself serves as a deterrent." "So, it's a jungle out there?" Alibi asks. Thomas arches an eyebrow. "Best you can do?" Thomas cracks back. "Sorry," Alibi apologizes. "So, it's jungly?" "Well, sort of. All overgrown and green, kinda looks like a jungle if you ask me, so that's what I'm calling it," Thomas says. "Doesn't really matter. Bottom line, easier to get to her somewhere around the city, not out there in the wild. They go out for about a week at a time. We can get her the next time she comes in. And that's—" "What about the killbots? The nanobots in her blood?" Alibi presses him. Thomas smiles, surprising Alibi. "Turns out that's not so bad," Thomas says. "Not irreversible, at any rate. Sometimes Laveillur needs to send servants off-world, so he has a 2-step process for cleaning the bots out of the system." Thomas leans down and picks a silver cylinder out of his pack. He tosses it over to Alibi. "That's half the battle. It's a flushing agent for the killbots. But it doesn't do any good unless you ingest it after you go through the elimination scanner." "The elimination scanner?" Alibi can't help asking Thomas. "What's that?" "It's kind of like an incredibly powerful tannin bed," he answers. "Except when you lie on it, instead of tannin rays, it sends out killbot killing rays. 10 minutes of that, and then you drink that stuff," he says, nodding at the cylinder in Alibi's hand. "And the killbots disintegrate into harmless garbage that eventually filters out of your bloodstream." "Nice. Where do they keep the elimination scanners?" Alibi asks. "Out at the spaceport," Thomas informs him. Then Thomas shakes his head. "That part is going to be tough. We have to get her loose from the guards in here, and get her out there to the port, only to stop and have her sit in the scanner for 10 minutes or something. That doesn't sound good." "Maybe if we run in the opposite direction from where they expect, we can gain some time," Alibi says. Thomas gives him a puzzled look. "Explain." "I'm thinking that if we can get Katie, and then run to where Kit is out exercising, maybe we can stash a floater there or some kind of car. We run out there, grab Kit, then use the car to race around the outside of the city to get back to the spaceport. Thinking out loud as you go along here, kid? Thomas asks. You bet, Alibi says, trailing off. He gets quiet. What are you thinking? Thomas prods him. I'm going to see if Ricard doesn't mind acting mad enough to storm off and leave Kit behind here on Kismet, Alibi tells Thomas. What? I want Ricard to take the rest of the Dakhur and get out of here. I don't want them getting hurt if things go wrong. Makes sense, Thomas says. We'll need them to make a scene and leave the night before Katie gets back, Alibi says. They may move Kit back to the prison levels once Ricard goes, but we can't hope they won't do it right away. If we time it right, say the delegation leaves the night before Katie gets back, and we grab her as she returns the next day before she gets to the off-limit dorms, then we can make for that construction yard to grab Kit when they bring him out there. There may be a problem with all that, Thomas says. There are probably a few problems in that string of possible maybes, Alibi admits. What do you got? Only this, Thomas says. Katie is coming back in tomorrow. That was my second piece of news. Just hadn't gotten to it yet. Shit, Alibi swears. He rubs his face with his hands. Think you can pull your plan together in a day? Alibi shakes his head no, but his answer is in the affirmative. I think we're going to have to, he says, a cracked smile playing across his face. Can I stay in your hotel room tonight? Why for? If I can convince Ricard to launch a tirade at Laveillur right now, and then leave, I'll need a place to stay here on Kismet tonight, Alibi explains. Sure. As a Dakhur? Thomas asks. Maybe at first, but I want to get this crap off of me. You wouldn't believe how much it itches. Whatever, Thomas agrees. Let's hope Ricard is willing to do this. That's step one, Alibi tells him. What time is Katie due back into the city? If my sources are right, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Kismet time, Thomas says. We have no idea when they'll be exercising Kit tomorrow, Alibi thinks out loud. I mean, we can hope it will be in the late morning, not sooner, and hopefully not too much later after Katie gets back. The sheer folly of the timing required to make his plan work strikes Alibi. Jeesh. Pretty much a crapshoot, ain't it, kid? Yep. Can you get us a floater or a car? Have it waiting near that exercise yard? I can try, Thomas says. A strange look crosses the older man's face. But, Jones, after we go from one side of the city to the other, once we get your friend's killbots out of her system, whose ship are you leaving on? The Dakhur will all be gone. Yours, of course, Alibi says, surprised at the question. Nuh-uh, not of course. This is dangerous. A man could get killed, Thomas protests. I've already got black marks against me thanks to helping you escape from Depot. None of you rode in on my ship. You can't just assume you're going to ride out on it.
Oh, man. Don't start this with me now.
What, you want more money? Alibi asks, not bothering to hide some disgust in his voice. Some things ain't about money, kid. Thomas shakes his head. He waves his hands back and forth in protest. I'm sure that the diplomatic families of the Dakhur can come up with enough currency to satiate your hungers, Alibi tells the man, disdain dripping off each word. Oh, really? Thomas answers in a mock flippant tone. Maybe. But maybe not. Not if what Laveillur said about the Dakhur and the Greater Ta is true. What, now you're going to believe him? Alibi snaps at Thomas. About money things? Absolutely. Laveillur ain't usually wrong when it comes to cash, Thomas counters. You get us out on your ship, I'll make sure you get paid, Thomas, Alibi tries to assure him. You have my word. Great. How much is that worth?
That was Chapter 21 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her on Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. Well, Alibi Jones is now trying to quickly put together a plan to free Kit and Katie and get safely off of Kismet. Is he on the right track? Can he trust Brady Thomas? We'll have to find these things out. We'll see if things can come together for Alibi in Chapter 22 of Alibi Jones and the Sunrise of Her, coming up on our next episode of Glow in the Dark Radio. Recapping book news. Looks like paperback prices are on the rise fairly soon, so if you're looking to pick up some paperbacks, I would recommend doing so now before price increases kick in, probably about August 1st. Hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but there you go. And a big thank you to patrons who help keep the podcast going. And if you want to become a patron, I would love to have you. Head on over to Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio, and you can pledge $2, $5, or $10 a month and help keep the podcast going. And that is all for this week. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma. Thank you again for listening to Glow in the Dark Radio.
Glow in the Dark Radio.
This podcast presentation is copyright 2025 by Michael F. Luoma and is protected under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License, CC by NC-ND 4.0. Music by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his work at incompetech.com. Mike's books are available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook, wherever you find books online. Get links and more details at glowinthedarkradio.com and mikeluoma.com. This has been a presentation of Glow in the Dark Radio.